Most modern survival advice is built around confidence, movement, and gear. Do something fast, cover distance, carry tools for every contingency. It sounds logical, but history shows that following this mindset in real survival conditions would have killed more people than it saved. When we examine how humans actually survived wars, migrations, disasters, and isolation before modern rescue systems, the pattern is uncomfortable. Restraint beat action, simplicity beat complexity, and patience beat heroics. The problem is not that modern advice is malicious, it is that it is designed for controlled training environments, not uncontrolled reality. Movement is treated as progress when it is often fatal. Many survival guides encourage immediate movement towards safety, water, or civilization. Historically, uncontrolled movement was one of the most common causes of death. Lost soldiers, explorers, and travelers died because they walked until exhaustion, injury, or dehydration removed their ability to recover. Ancient survival doctrine emphasized stopping early. Not stopping forever, but stopping long enough to stabilize. When Roman units lost cohesion, when medieval travelers missed landmarks, when frontier scouts became disoriented, the first response was to halt and reassess. Moving without certainty burned energy and increased exposure. For a modern viewer, this means resisting the urge to just keep going when lost or stranded. Sit down, reduce energy loss. Establish a temporary base before deciding whether movement is necessary. Fire obsession ignores fuel reality. Modern survival advice fixates on fire-starting tools. Historically, fire was important, but ignition was the smallest part of the problem. Fuel availability, shelter from wind, and maintenance mattered more. People died trying to make fire in the open while exposed to wind and rain. Experienced survivors built windbreaks first, gathered fuel thoroughly, and accepted cold temporarily if conditions were wrong. Today, carrying 3 lighters does not replace understanding fuel structure. If you can't process wet wood, protect flame, or maintain coals, fire becomes a liability rather than a solution. Water advice overemphasizes filters and underemphasizes behavior. Modern advice focuses on finding and filtering water. Historically, survivors focused on conserving it. They rested during heat, traveled at dawn and dusk, and minimized sweat. Ancient travelers drank deeply when water was available and carried less than modern people expect. They accepted thirst as a manageable state and dehydration as the real enemy. For modern survival, this means slowing down before searching for water. Reducing loss often matters more than finding more. Shelter is treated as a project instead of medicine. Many survival guides encourage building elaborate shelters. Historically, shelter was simple and immediate. Its purpose was exposure control, not comfort. People who attempted complex shelters wasted energy and time. Those who used terrain, wind direction, and minimal insulation survived longer. Today, a shallow windbreak in the right place beats a complicated shelter in the wrong one. Shelter is about stopping heat loss and exposure first, not building something impressive. Food urgency is often misplaced. Modern survival advice tends to push food procurement right from the start. But if you look back through history, hunger was something people learned to tolerate. Injury from overexertion, on the other hand, was not so easily forgiven. Ancient survivors actually prioritized safety over calories. They scavenged, trapped, and foraged only when the energy return was reliable, never just for the sake of it. For those of us today, this really means accepting that hunger is survivable. Burning precious calories to chase after food can, more often than not, shorten your survival rather than extend it. Now, gear dependency, well, that creates fragility. Modern survival culture encourages carrying extra gear for redundancy, but historically, redundancy came from skills. Tools broke, got lost, or were even taken away. Ancient warriors and travelers, they practiced repairing, improvising, and functioning without their tools. They simply assumed loss was inevitable. Today, relying solely on gear without practicing what to do when things fail, that just gives you a false sense of confidence. Skills weigh nothing and, crucially, they don't break. Navigation advice, too, often ignores uncertainty. You'll hear things like, just follow water downhill. But historically, that could be incredibly dangerous. Rivers could lead to impassable terrain, enemies, or even deadly exposure. Ancient navigation was all about certainty. If you weren't sure, the best thing to do was stop. If landmarks were unclear, the wise move was to wait for conditions to improve. Modern survival really benefits from that same restraint. Moving without reliable orientation, well, it increases your risk dramatically. There's this myth, about constant action. Survival media loves to reward motion, but history actually rewarded patience. Survivors rested, waited for the weather to change, observed patterns, and conserved their strength. Many people, unfortunately, died simply because they mistook urgency for effectiveness. Why does all this matter now? Well, modern systems can fail suddenly. Power outages, disasters, and isolation can strip away our conveniences in no time at all. And when that happens, historical rules come right back into play, immediately. Survival isn't about doing more, it's about doing less, but doing it better. So, if you want survival knowledge that's grounded in what actually kept people alive for centuries, not just what looks good in theory, do consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this with others. Remember, history really is the most honest survival instructor we have.